Welcome to Board Gems. In this video, I'd like to show you a game called Quo Vadis. It's from Reiner Knizia and was originally published by Hans im Glück way back in 1992. There was an English Mayfair edition, and there was also a tiny little, it was a cute little, oh look at that baby little Quo Vadis from Amigo, which actually reused some of the Hans im Glück art. But I'm going to be comparing 1992's Quo Vadis from Hans im Glück and 2023's Zoo Vadis from Bitewing. And here they are. The original had a Roman Senate theme. It's a little historical, a little bit dry, some may find. So the trend now is, of course, anthropomorphic animals, and here we are with Zoo Vadis. Zoo Vadis's box is in a more or less Agricola-shaped box, so relatively standard that you might see from, for example, Lookout games. The original Quo Vadis was in a long box, which was pretty standard from Hans im Glück at the time, along with some other publishers you would have seen this box format from, for example, Ravensburger and Amigo. Looking at the back of the boxes gives me some warm fuzzies to see Hans im Glück's old logo here. But the most interesting thing to me about this is that it's multilingual. It has descriptions and inside the rules in German, English, French, and Spanish. Very unusual for Hans im Glück. Generally speaking, all their games are in German only. Of course, this edition of Zoo Vadis is English only. There may be piggyback printings in other languages, I'm not sure. You'll notice the age range changes from 8 to 10 plus, which I agree with. And the big thing from 3 to 5 players becomes 3 to 7. That's a big deal. Have a look at this. Crown Jewel Selection. Classic gems. Now polished and perfected. See, Bitewing is even admitting that it's a board gem. The Quo Vadis rulebook is single color. Now, one important thing I want to note, because this does include English rules, which is great. However, there is a mistranslation, I think, in the English rules, which was carried over into the Mayfair edition. And I've always played Quo Vadis this way. Promises that can be redeemed in the course of your next move must be kept. So I had always played it that negotiations were binding for one full round. It's actually a bit unusual for negotiation board games. Most of them say, if you make a deal to do something now, you have to do it now. If you make a deal to do something later, then you can renege on it. And in fact, the German rules, if I'm understanding them correctly, do say that. The Zoo Vadis rulebook is, of course, one language, very colorful, very clear, lots of examples. It does clarify that, in fact, negotiations, deals are binding just for the current turn. You can play the original Quo Vadis rules, a classic variant, no problem, I like that name. Don't like beginner variant. A little reminder on the back of the special powers. Special powers are a new addition to Zoo Vadis. Let's compare the boards. They're both quad-fold boards. So Quo Vadis being in a big long box, it unfolds into a very large board, which is very appealing, very clear. The new edition's board is very nice looking, much busier, of course. There is also more information that it needs to convey, including the starting positions of the peacocks, as well as there are tunnels now. So more information to present. And it's a little bit disappointing in that the board is smaller. Now, of course, the box is smaller, so that makes sense. But for a game that plays a lot of players potentially, you want a nice big board so everybody feels close to the action. And whereas Zoo Vadis actually goes up to 7 players, the board is smaller than Quo Vadis, which tops out at 5. Understandable, of course, just a little disappointing. I like big boards, I cannot lie. Looking inside the box, Quo Vadis has a custom plastic insert, which just has several big wells. One for each player color. The plastic pieces are large, so there's no need to bag them there. Zoo Vadis has what's mostly preferred nowadays, at least for me, which is a simple cardboard insert and then a bunch of baggies just stuff everything in there. When everything's inside the box, it's pretty full. Looking at the player pieces, again, Quo Vadis is larger than life, very tall pieces, very abstract. The pawns for Zoo Vadis are much more detailed. Of course, there's 7 of them now instead of 5. The original had good choices of colors for colorblind players. I'm not colorblind, but that's my understanding. Not sure about the new edition, but of course the pieces are in different shapes, so that helps. As you can see, the new pieces are quite a bit smaller than the old, but more detailed. They're anthropomorphic animals now because, why? Because it's 2023, that's why. Let's look at the laurels. You can see what the artist did was try to make laurels in the shape of Roman numerals, which is fine, although it just looks like fuzzy Roman numerals. Much clearer in the new edition. Nothing on the back of the old one. A ZV logo on the back of the new edition. Caesar has become a zookeeper, whereas the original only had one special 2 laurel token, which was Move Caesar. In Zoo Vadis, there are now 3 different ones. Move the zookeeper, move a peacock. Peacocks are a new addition to crowd up the board and give players more options, and recover one of your 2 special power medallions. Another addition in Zoo Vadis. Each player has 2 special power tokens. Players can use them, and if they use them, they get victory points, but they can't use them on themselves. They have to use them on other players. So an extra point of negotiation there. Quite neat. Components that are particular to Zoo Vadis, there are quite a few. This is the back of the board that shows the 6 and 7 player playfield. It's actually not all that different from the old one, obviously more spaces. And a lot of stuff. Let's look at this. So now players have their own screens, which has some info on the back for their special power, for example. I think it shows everybody's special powers. Not strictly necessary, but it's nice, and you can kind of advertise that you still have special powers available by hanging the medallions on top. These are the special power medals. Each race has 2. You can see the front and the back, and these hang on top of the screens to show players what powers are still available to be used. There are now peacocks, which are like non-player characters that crowd the board, and players can move peacocks around, which can create some lovely shenanigans. And a nice custom Zoo Vadis drawstring bag to keep the laurel tokens in. In the original, we just had to flip them all face down. Very nice drawstring bag. Thanks for watching. At some point, I'll publish an Is It a Gem video for Quo Vadis and Zoo Vadis. Not quite yet, though. Remember, older games like Quo Vadis don't stop being good just because newer games come out. Thanks, and take care.